Well, anyway, we're very happy to be here today because for most of the new folks here in the audience, this is going to be your first real education into what do we do in the identification process. Well, I'm going to take it down a step further because we're now going to talk about DNA in specifics and why each and every one of you in this room can be so very critical to us in the identification process. As Tom's already pointed out, there's the identification process itself is not simple. There's a lot of things that go into it. And unfortunately, one of the big problems that I am faced with is you all watch TV too much. Okay? Now, I know that there's not many of us in this room today that remember Jack Klugman, right, ma'am? No, I'm not you. Oh, you're not that old. I'm sorry. Forget that. But, you know, the fact is, what you see on TV, on the crime scene shows, are fairly good representations of what takes place in forensics today. Of course, they often have to take a story and compress it down to 50 minutes to make it interesting, and it doesn't work that way all the time. So it does take a little bit more in the way of how do we actually do things in the process itself. Now, our organization is kind of interesting in the fact that the Armed Forces DNA Identification Laboratory is part of the Armed Forces Medical Examiner System. We are located at Dover Air Force Base, Delaware. We, of course, support the JPAC-SIL operations because of our DNA capability. The Armed Forces Medical Examiner is, of course, responsible for all current death case investigations. So if we do have a military death anywhere in the world today, that case specifically belongs to the Armed Forces Medical Examiner. Whereas, of course, with the prior conflict losses, those are a JPAC-SIL responsibility. Now, what specifically does AFDIL do? Well, two major things. One, collection of DNA, and that comes from a couple of different sources. And I'll talk more about those in just a second. Secondly, of course, is the actual laboratory stuff that you see on TV. Now, let me tell you, I wish I had a laboratory of Abby's, because, you know, you watch NCIS, Abby takes that DNA specimen, she takes it, puts it on a machine, probably not even 15 seconds later, out pops a result, and not only a result, but it searches all these big databases that are supposedly out there that gives you an answer. They're not there, not even close. It takes a great deal more effort in order to find something like a DNA answer. I always am quite amused when people talk about DNA in a box. Well, we're going to give it to every law enforcement official so that when you get stopped for a traffic violation, they're going to take your DNA and search it against something. That's a far cry. We're not even close to that, considering what we have to do in a laboratory to get the results today. As Tom also indicated earlier, of course, we are an accredited laboratory. Accreditation in the field of forensics is very, very important because that means we are following specific processes and procedures to ensure the reliability of our results. Both ourselves and the SIL pride ourselves in the fact that the reason we are accredited is because we are often taken into court. And when you get into court, it changes the whole perspective of how you deal with the material that you're testifying to. We follow the accreditation standards set by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and as he indicated too, we're accredited by the American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors Laboratory Accreditation Board. The identification process is multiplexed. In other words, there's a lot of different things that go into it. It would be so nice if we could just use one specific thing to give you an answer. But for every one that you see up here on the screen right now, I can tell you reasons that something is not going to work. What do you do in a case where you don't have fingerprints because maybe you're dealing with skeletalized remains, or maybe you just don't have antemortem fingerprints to work with? Same thing holds true for dental. You may have great post-mortem dental, but there's no antemortem dental material to compare it back to. Even for DNA, degradation of DNA plays a great deal of havoc with us because we can't see DNA. That's the big problem. It'd be great if you could, look at it, see it, taste it, but it doesn't work. We have to test it to see if we're going to get a result. And you're not always successful the first time. Or you only get partial results. What do you do then? So there's a lot of things that we have to, again, contend with. So DNA is not that gold standard that everybody says is going to solve every crime that is potentially out there, nor every identification. But it is a very powerful tool.